Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we've got a really dense collection of texts you've given us, and they all seem to circle around this one massive concept, righteousness.
They do, and it's a big one.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is to try and pull out a coherent understanding of this idea.
Yeah.
What is it? What does it actually demand?
And crucially, how the way you achieve it seems to take this radical turn across the sources.
Yeah, that's what I found fascinating. It's not a static idea at all.
Not in the slightest. If you look at it across the board, righteousness is almost like a three-dimensional concept. It's this divine quality that sets up cosmic order.
Okay, so the big picture.
Right. But it's also a very concrete ethical demand on people, on communities, and then finally it becomes this deeply personal, spiritual state of being. We're going to be tracking all those meanings today.
So the mission is set. We're looking for the definition, which seems tied to justice. To the practical side, what do righteous people actually do? And then we hit that big turn, that spiritual mechanism that kind of redesigns the whole thing.
Exactly. And let's start at that cosmic level, because to really get the human side of it, you first have to understand the divine standard they're working from.
The sources use this almost architectural language, which I think is a great way for you, the listener, to frame it. Righteousness isn't just an optional feature.
No, it's structural.
It's structural. We read that righteousness and justice are the foundation of his throne. It's not just a quality he has. It's the very bedrock of his entire government.
And what's so fascinating about that is it immediately sets this unchangeable standard for fairness, for order, for everything.
Across the entire universe.
The entire universe. If the throne itself rests on it, then every other system, from the stars down to a local courtroom, has to align with that.
That makes sense.
That's why the sources link it so directly. To get righteousness, you have to also get justice, equity, and every good path. It's the moral blueprint for everything.
So if that's the divine blueprint, the human job is to build a smaller version of it on Earth?
Kind of, yeah. You're meant to reflect that same structural integrity. Look at that early mandate we have, where the command is to your household, your family, to keep the way of the Lord.
And it specifies how. It says, to do righteousness and justice.
There it is. It's a direct attempt to replicate that divine order right there in the human family, in the community.
And this is where it stops being, high-level theology and gets incredibly specific, almost like a legal code.
Well, that's the thing. These sources aren't as interested in just abstract philosophy. They want operational rules. Just look at the law about judging your neighbor.
It's so clear about impartiality, isn't it? You shall do no injustice in judgment. And then it immediately gives you both sides of the coin.
Both sides. Don't be partial to the poor.
But also don't honor the mighty. It's this perfect balance. You have to judge in righteousness.
And that's the plumb line in action, right? You mentioned the plumb line analogy earlier.
I did, yeah.
If righteousness is that perfectly vertical, unbending line that a builder uses, then every single social interaction, every legal case is measured against it.
So it strips away all the bias, your personal feelings, your social status. None of it matters.
None of it, just the standard.
Okay, so we've set the standard. It's the structural foundation for order. And for us, it means justice and impartiality. But what does that actually look like day to day?
That's the next step, because the sources are very clear that righteousness has to be visible. It's not something you just think about, it's something you do. And this section kicks off with a statement that I think really shocks people.
You're talking about the priority statement. To do righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice.
That one.
I mean, that is a massive statement. It's putting ethical behavior directly above religious ritual.
Directly above it. It's telling you that you can go through all the motions, do all the sacrifices, but if you're not living justly, it's empty.
It's meaningless.
In fact, one of the other sources flips it. It suggests that right action is the real sacrifice. It says, offer the sacrifices of righteousness.
It's fascinating because they then detail both what's going on inside and what's happening on the outside. Internally, the righteous person is thoughtful.
Deliberative.
Right. It says the heart of the righteous studies how to answer, which implies, patience and wisdom, not just blurting things out.
And the external behavior flows from that. It's defined by generosity. The righteous person gives and does not spare, which is put in direct contrast to the wicked who just want more and more.
So their actions are about building up the community, not just themselves.
Exactly.
I think the most powerful picture of this, though, is that profile of what the source calls the righteous walker. It's like a complete how-to guide for being an ethical person. And it's so physical.
It's intensely physical. It starts with your speech and your walk, sure, but then it becomes this very active resistance.
Right. The righteous person despises the gain of oppressions.
And think about what that means. Refusing a bribe isn't passive. The text says you gesture with your hands to reject it. It's a physical act.
And you actively stop his ears from hearing of bloodshed and shut his eyes from seeing evil.
And that's the key takeaway for you, the listener. Righteousness is not a passive condition. It's a dynamic, almost sensory discipline. You're constantly filtering what you hear, what you see, what you touch.
You're a proactive moral agent.
A proactive moral agent who is actively seeking out righteousness, justice, and humility.
Okay, but if the bar is set that high, that requires an incredible amount of self-control and external effort. The motivation for doing all that must be equally high.
It has to be. And the sources promise very tangible benefits that match the effort. The first one is divine protection.
A shield.
Yes, exactly. The Lord will bless the righteous and surround him with favor as with a shield. It's like an insurance policy for living ethically.
And it gives you a direct line, right? There's access. The sources say the Lord hears the prayer of the righteous.
And one of the later sources really elevates that. It says, the effective, fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. That's a huge promise. Your prayers actually work.
Beyond just personal benefits, though, it seems to lead to wider societal good, like peace.
Peace and stability. One source makes this incredible cause and effect statement. The work of righteousness will be peace, and the effect of righteousness, quietness, and assurance forever.
So right actions produce a stable society, not just a personal reward.
And that idea of long-term reward of life comes up again and again. Someone who follows righteousness finds life, righteousness, and honor.
And that image of the tree of life.
Yeah.
The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life. It's this idea of producing something lasting and good.
And the ultimate payoff, the final vindication, is described as the crown of righteousness given by the righteous judge. The whole pursuit is framed as desirable. It's what the divine loves, in total contrast to the way of the wicked.
So we've got this incredibly high standard. We've got the demanding actions, and we have these massive rewards. But this is where we get to the turning point in the material, the part that almost seems to flip all of this on its head.
It really does.
Because if the standard is divine perfection and it requires this total integrity, how does any human being actually pull that off? We know we all fail.
And that is the essential question. If righteousness means hitting that plumb line perfectly every time, then nobody can do it. So a new mechanism has to come into play.
This is where we get the term imputed righteousness.
Exactly. And for you, the listener, imputed is a bit of a technical term, but it just means righteousness is credited to your account. It's legally declared.
So it's not earned.
It is not earned. It's a gift.
Okay, that is a fundamental break from everything we just talked about. The sources say David's blessedness comes not from his perfect works, but because God imputes righteousness apart from works. That phrase, apart from works.
Yeah.
How do we square that with the total focus on doing righteousness we saw earlier?
Well, that tension is the entire point of the shift. The law, the earlier system, it was brilliant at showing us the standard. It held up the plumb line. But it couldn't give us the power to actually meet that standard.
So it showed us the goal, but didn't provide the fuel to get there.
Precisely. And one source says it very bluntly. If we could become fully righteous through our own actions, then Christ died in vain. This new system is based not by works of righteousness which we have done, but according to his mercy.
So the earlier texts give us the perfect standard, and the later texts give us the means to satisfy it when we inevitably fail.
That's a great way to put it.
So if it's not our effort, how does this transfer happen? What's the mechanism?
The sources trace it to one specific action. It's presented as a gift that comes from one man's righteous act, which leads to life, and that's contrasted with the one act of disobedience that led to condemnation.
It's a complete reversal.
A total reversal. The shift is so radical that the sources claim Christ himself actually became for us righteousness.
And the goal is almost unbelievable. It says, we might become the righteousness of God in him. It's a complete substitution.
It is, and the way it's received isn't through labor, it's through faith. The sources are so clear on this. With the heart, one believes unto righteousness. We wait for the hope of righteousness by faith. The focus moves from the hands that do the work to the heart that receives the gift.
But this gift isn't static, is it? It doesn't just let you off the hook and encourage you to be lazy.
Absolutely not. The sources immediately connect this gift to a profound transformation. It sets you free from your old way of life.
So it changes your very identity.
Yes,
Yeah.
your identity is transformed, and that has to show up on the outside. You go from being an instrument of unrighteousness to becoming an instrument of righteousness.
So you become a slave of righteousness.
Right. And that new identity creates this internal drive, this compulsion to live out the very ethical life that the Old Testament sources were describing all along.
Okay, that makes sense. It resolves the tension. We're given the status of righteousness, and that gift then compels us to live righteously. Which brings us to the final part, the ongoing practice.
Because even with the gift, the sources all stress that this is an active, continuous pursuit. It's not a finish line you cross.
It's the path itself.
The path itself.
And it's a dual command, isn't it? You have to actively flee from the bad stuff, lawlessness, youthful lusts.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, you have to actively pursue the good stuff. Pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, gentleness.
It's about setting your life's priority. The command is to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. You see the blend there.
Yeah, the spiritual gift, the kingdom.
And the required ethical output, righteousness. The gift gives you the standing, but the pursuit is the practice.
And the sources even provide tools for this pursuit. I love the armor imagery, putting on the breastplate of righteousness.
It's about guarding your core, your vital organs with this principle.
Right. And it's not just defense, there's also training. The scripture is described as being useful for instruction in righteousness.
But the most surprising tool, I think, is suffering, hardship. The sources say that chastening, or trials, yield the fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it.
So it requires discipline, whether it's through study or just through life's difficulties.
Exactly. And ultimately, that practice gets tied right back to your new identity. It confirms the reality of the change. One source says, he who practices righteousness is righteous.
The external action proves the internal reality.
It proves the internal reality gifted by faith, which circles us all the way back to the standards we started with.
So looking back on this whole journey, for you, the listener, there's a pretty clear map. We started with righteousness as this external standard of justice.
Right, demanding concrete acts like judging fairly, practicing integrity.
Then we hit that massive theological shift. The standard is impossible for us to meet on our own, so it's satisfied by an internal gift-imputed righteousness, received through faith.
And finally, we saw how that gift doesn't end there. It kicks off a transformed life, one that's defined by the active fruits of righteousness, and that requires constant pursuit and training.
The whole process. A standard, a gift, and then a lifelong pursuit.
That's it in a nutshell.
Before we go, let's leave you with one last image to think about. It's one that seems to pull both the external acts and the internal gift together beautifully.
Okay.
The sources describe the clothing worn by the saints in the final days. It's this fine linen. And it says, the linen is the righteous acts of the saints.
Ah, so their clothes are made of their deeds.
Exactly. So here's the thought to ponder. If that final garment is made of righteous acts, does that suggest that even with the incredible gift of imputed righteousness, our active, practiced deeds still serve as the visible proof? The external garment that shows the reality of the transformed life within. Something to think about as you continue your own journey of knowledge.